You know what? Better late than never. So, this is it. The Xiaomi 15T. Let's find out how this camera holds up when it comes to a phone that is really focused on performance. Let's dive into the video. The Xiaomi 15T can be bought for about €450, with it being the entry model of the two versions that we have for this. It of course has memory from 256GB up to 512GB with UFS 4.1 storage, and of course 12GB of RAM. It has an IP68 rating and a Dimensity 8400 Ultra. A 6.83-inch AMOLED display with a refresh rate of 120Hz and a peak brightness of 3200 nits. Next to it, a 5500 mAh battery, all running on Android 16 with HyperOS 3 now available. But naturally, this channel is all about the camera performance. It comes with a triple camera setup, which surprises me because I couldn't properly tell when it comes to the telephoto. Either way, we have a 50MP main sensor with an f-stop of 1.7 and a sensor size of 1/1.55 inches, which is perfectly fine. Next to it, we have a telephoto that is 46mm equivalent, which means it's a 2x zoom, and therefore I couldn't really tell. An f-stop of 1.9 and a sensor size of 1/2.76 inches. To then the ultra-wide. It's a 12MP sensor with an f-stop of 2.2, 15mm equivalent, and then a tiny sensor of 1/3.06 inches. For the front-facing camera, it's 32MP with an f-stop of 2.2, 21mm equivalent, and a 1/3.44 inch sensor size. For video recording, max at 4K and 60 frames per second, and you cannot swap between the sensors doing so. However, you can when using 4K 30 frames per second. Now, when it comes to the Xiaomi 15T, I actually started using it in Shanghai, but because the phone came so late, I had other devices to focus on first. Phones that honestly would perform better on YouTube because I'm so late with it. Still, at the end, this video is my take on it. My way of showing you what the performance is really like, so you know from a photography point of view whether you should or shouldn't get it. Realistically, during daytime, the pictures that are produced are perfectly fine, especially when using authentic mode. I really like that style. But then again, this really isn't a challenge. Daytime photography for most phones is easy. However, if you switch to the ultra-wide, you will notice more issues, especially with the dynamic range and sometimes looking a little bit softer than I would like. Even so, I think it can add to the atmosphere of the shot. Sometimes those imperfections makes an image look more real, because when the dynamic range is too good, it can start looking unnatural. In terms of overall look, yes, it has that familiar Xiaomi Leica aesthetic, the same one we've seen on, for instance, the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, just not quite on that level in terms of the quality. I just wish, when it comes to the camera setup, that we had a more useful zoom range. Something around a 70mm equivalent maybe, instead of just 46mm. Because right now, it just feels like I'm cropping in to the main sensor. It doesn't really add any benefit. Naturally though, the Xiaomi 15T, which I will be covering soon as well, does have a periscope sensor. And that simply gives you a much better range than you would find on this standard 15T. Don't get me wrong, the ultra-wide has its benefits in situations like these, where I want to create a really dramatic look. Then the ultra-wide is really a benefit, though I wish it was wider. 50mm isn't crazy wide, but it still looks cool to create that kind of stretched illusion in situations like these. And to be really honest and straightforward here, I do feel like when it comes to the capability of the camera setup, even more so the ultra-wide in slightly harder conditions, it simply doesn't perform that well here with that ultra-wide. You will see that sometimes you just get a really noisy shot, but also very soft at the same time. But the main camera can deliver some shots that are perfectly fine with a good amount of detail, decent dynamic range, and overall a pretty pleasing shot. It's just that the limitations that are given here really makes it that I wouldn't advise a device like this if photography is your priority, even on a budget. There are better options out there, even more so options like buying a second-hand Xiaomi 14 Ultra. That would be something that I would earlier advise over the Xiaomi 15T, especially when it comes to the camera. Heck, I would even advise the Xiaomi 13 Pro over it, because at least then you get great macro capabilities that the Xiaomi 15T simply lacks. If it comes to the performance, however, of this device, it has pretty solid battery life, and for those who care, here are some scores, which again are perfectly fine, allowing you to play games and more. It's just that when it comes to the camera, this is something that doesn't really shine here. Alright, 4K 60 frames per second max, but when you're in that mode you cannot switch between different focal lengths, so it's stuck at that one time. So this is the main sensor, and we're going to manually have to switch between 3 different lenses. This is then the 2x telephoto, 4K 60 frames per second. Once again, I just wish that they added a better telephoto, but this is just not that great. And something like 75 or 70 millimeters would have been much nicer. Ultra wide is limited to 4K 30 frames per second. It seems okay on video, like it's not terrible. Stability seems good. It's just in pictures, it can be a little bit a hit or miss, realistically. But you know, in video, it's fine. Now I know what you're thinking, Jermaine, why are you so late with the review? Not one, Xiaomi didn't send this over. I actually got this via TKB, check them out, link in the description. But because of that, I'm very late with the review itself. They're gonna send me now randomly the 15T Pro to check out. I'm gonna accept it because, simply put, people wanted to see my opinion about it. And even if it doesn't get as many views, I still wanna cover it. Now, at the end of the day, I really want to say thank you to TKB, because without his help, I wouldn't have covered the Xiaomi 15T. So do say thank you to him as well in the comments below, and of course, check his channel out. Now, when it comes to the Xiaomi 15T, again, this is based on performance, this kind of phone, but I will say that the camera itself just simply isn't impressive. With the main sensor, you will get some fine shots with it. I really have hardly any complaints about it for the price that you're paying for the phone, especially finding and looking around. You can find this for a pretty reasonable price, but when it comes to the ultra wide, it's simply not that great, and just the overall camera experience just isn't something where I would say it's versatile enough for me. Again, if performance matters to you, then sure, this kind of phone is perfectly fine. Battery life is perfectly fine as well. It's nothing crazy, but it's fine. But when it comes to just camera focus, I would advise looking away from a phone like this. I would go for something else. Either way, what do you think about the Xiaomi 15T? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe and everything. And before we leave, I really want to thank my members. Thank you so much for the support you guys have been giving me. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you want to become a member, you can by clicking join somewhere below. And of course, to those members, WoW files taken on the Xiaomi 15T will be available. Anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed this video. And of course, before we leave also, I really want to say thank you so much for the 27,000 subscribers. Either way, have a good one and talk to you guys in the next.